What is up everyone? Welcome back to another video on TPL Locs. Today we are reviewing the person who came second in the poll that we did on the community page. Today we are reviewing Future. Future is a rapper and his real name is actually Nayvadius DeMun Wilburn. He was born in November 1983 and he's a rapper, a singer, a songwriter, and a record producer. He was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and he first became involved in music as part of the Dungeon Family Collective. I'm not sure if he was actually a part of that, but his uncle Rocko was definitely on the Dungeon Family. He was soon signed to A1 Records, and since then his work ethic has driven him to his success. What people might also know Future for is he used to be with singer Ciara. They have a kid together called Future Zahir Wilburn. Let's review his locks. So if we look at this first picture, this is probably his yearbook picture. He was really young here. He didn't have locks, as you can see, and his hair is very short. And if we then go and jump ahead in time, this is probably around 2009, and you can see that he already has his locks. This is the first picture that I could find of him with the shortest locks, and you can see that they are quite thin. So he started them off quite thin, and usually as his locks grow, they become thicker, but in his case, he started them off really thin, so he has lots of them. And then it becomes interesting because Future always wears something on his head, and he wears sunglasses. That's what we know him for, so it's going to be a bit tricky to kind of talk you through his journey, but let's get into it. This is probably a good few years later because his hair is way longer. He has it up in a bun kind of at the back, and this is usually what he looks like. He's wearing a beanie. Normally he's also wearing sunglasses, so it's extremely hard to find pictures of him where he is wearing his locks without anything covering it. And then this is probably right around the same time, and this is also something he's known for. He has a lot of styles. This is one of the styles that he wears. So his locks are braided together in 3 or sometimes 5 locks all the way to the back, and then those are braided into 2 big braids. These even look like twists to me. If you look at this lock, it doesn't necessarily have to be a braid. It could also be a twist. But we either usually see him with a beanie or with some kind of lock style. And if you also look carefully on his arms, his forearms, you can see that it says Dungeon, and on the other arm it says Family. So he truly became inspired and got his start with this Dungeon Family. And fun fact for the people out there, Big Boy and Andre 3000 were in that family as well. And I listened to them a lot growing up, so that is a cool fact. Now this is one of the only pictures that I could find of him where he has his hair somewhat loose, and we can kind of look at his locks a bit closer. What we see here is that his locks are very long and they are still thin. And I think this is kind of dangerous because if you have a lot of lock styles and you retwist your hair a lot, which is what he does, this can happen that your locks start become thinner and thinner and eventually they start breaking. But here we can't really see any signs of that yet. What I do see, if I look at his locks on his shoulders, it looks like he has some type of buildup. Maybe it's just lint, maybe that's just from towels. I'm not really sure, but they don't really look that clear to me. And here he is seen with Ciara. We see another style. That's the same style I think we see often with the 4 braids and the big bun in the back. And he always has his sunglasses on, so yeah, he's a man of mystery, so to speak. And this is what I'm talking about. If he's not wearing a beanie, he's usually wearing his hood. So in this picture, you wouldn't even say that he has dreadlocks, which is interesting. 2014, here you can see that he dyed or colored his locks. And he dyed them blonde, and the roots are still dark brown, which is natural hair color. I really love the way this looks. I just know that it can become a dangerous combination to dye your hair, even bleach them. I think he had to bleach them to get this color, and he retwists them often, and he has lock style. So there's a lot that he's probably doing to his hair that can be damaging. Although he has enough money to do these things professionally, so I hope he has a good loctician that helps him kind of maintain his hair health. That same year, now we can get a good look at his edges. So his hairline around his forehead, and I must say it looks quite good. These roots look like they're really strong. You don't see a lot of like really short, thin hairs. That's usually the case when people's hairlines start to recede because there's so much traction on their dreadlocks. And to be honest, when I first got into dreadlocks, I was such a fan of this style, of this neat look of long, thin locks. Because many people, where I am in the Netherlands, many people, black people, wear their hair like this. And I always loved the way it looked. They had locks like until over their hips, and they look amazing and very well maintained. But it comes at a cost for most people. So here's another good look at how he keeps his hair. You can always see his parts in his hair, which tells me that he retwists them at least for every performance. Maybe when he's at home and he's not touring or he's not doing anything on stage, he doesn't retwist his hair and he kind of gives his roots a rest. We can't really be sure. And then here he's seen performing, I think, with the Roots on the Jimmy Fallon show, if I'm not mistaken. And we can again see the bleached locks. This is the only picture that we're going to see of him with his hair completely down. And here you can see the length. Maybe he cut them because I think if he didn't do that, and looking back to 2011 or even 2009, his hair should be quite a bit longer. So maybe he cut them just to keep them at the same length, or maybe they grow really slowly. I'm not really sure, but I think after about 3 to 4 years, if we compare that to the picture from 2011, his locks should be longer. So I think he did cut them. I think this is the same night, maybe, because he was wearing white in previous pictures as well. But here I do start to see some things that start to worry me. If you look here at his hairline, you can see that he has some hairs that are just poking out, that are really short, and that are not within the part of a lock. And it doesn't have to mean anything, because a lot of people have baby hairs and they will never lock up with the rest of the hair, even if you retwist. But in his case, this is something that we didn't see in the previous picture. So maybe he is starting to have some thinning of his locks. 2017, we jump 3 years into the future, and his hair again seems quite short to me, so I think he does cut his locks to keep them the same length. But here you can see another great style, and he has, I think, 3 colors to his locks now. So it's bleach blonde, it's kind of a bit darker blonde, and then he has his own hair color. So I think he's just growing out the color of his hair, or maybe he dyed it back to make it a bit more dark. I'm not really sure. I think it looks cool though. I really like dyed locks or colored locks, but I would be so scared for my hair health. Here we can see him with his son, and I wanted to show you guys this picture because you can see that his son has also started getting locks. So it runs in the family. That often happens. If your parents have locks, the kids get interested in the culture and in the hairstyle, and then they get locks too. I couldn't really find a picture of him now because this was in 2017, but his locks must be coming along nicely if he kept them. 2018, he dyed his locks again, because you can now see that the locks in the front are bleached blonde almost all the way to the root. And I think he's playing with fire. I think this is not gonna last very long unless it is a temporary lock coloring. I think he could get away with that. And it looks awesome. It looks so good. And even with his style, I think he really has his own style that you don't see very often amongst other rappers in the same scene. I think it really suits him, the hair color and the style that he wears and just what he's about. But yeah, like I said, I would be careful if I were him. And this is another picture from him in 2018 where he has the same hair color, but then he has a braid out. So he braided 3 of his locks together. and then you get this a bit of a shorter look, and when you take out these braids you get those crinkly locks. I think that suits him very well as well. I often like it when guys do that, when they have that braid out and you can see that the locks are kind of like curly or crinkly. I'm not sure what you want to call it. 2019, another example of his unique style. Here he has gone even further with coloring or dyeing his locks. So he's almost fully blonde at this point, and it suits him. It really does suit him. It almost looks like his hair is the same color as the jacket, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it really suits him, and he keeps on doing those styles. His locks keep looking the same length, so I think he does cut them from time to time, which I think helps with the traction. If you do these things to your hair and you keep growing your hair as well, the weight increases that is pulling on your scalp, along with all of the other things that you could be doing to hurt your scalp. So at least he's doing one thing that I can like judge from these pictures that will probably give him better scalp health. With that being said, that's the end of the review. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.